Duelist Citizen Hellgear, and on this April Fool's Day, Power of the Elements dropped the most mimical legacy support. And I do mean the most mimical legacy support today. This guy right here. To those of you who are wondering, what is this? It is our good friend, Mokey Mokey! Mokey Mokey! The outcast angel that no one knows is thinking. But sometimes when he gets mad, it's dreadful. Apparently this is not an April Fool's joke. Anyway, the card that you see before you on the screen is Stray Mokey Mokey. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it works and a theoretical Mokey Mokey deck. So, like, sub, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway, like the original Mokey Mokey, it's a light attribute 1-star fairy with 300 attack and 100 in the back. While on the field, face up, or in the graveyard, it is treated not only as a normal monster, but its name is also treated as the original Mokey Mokey. Because it's that guy. You can discard the Stray Mokey Mokey and rota a Mokey Mokey card from deck to hand. Now, with these effects in mind, 1, thank you, Konami, for not making this a Gemini monster. 2, since it is a normal monster while on field or in grave, that means you could make this as Magic Key support, or if you want to reach for it, Tangy support. And 3, the discarding rota effect is not once per turn. So if you have 3 strays in hand, you can get your rota effect off, which until they introduce some more Mokey Mokey support, you can only rota 2 different cards. The original guy himself, Mokey Mokey, and the continuous spell, Mokey Mokey Smackdown. Lastly, because the Stray counts as the original Mokey Mokey while on the field, it sounds like future Mokey Mokey support is going to be along the lines of the white deck. And you guys know how the white deck is, in a lot of the names being white this, white that. That's W-I-G-H-T, not to be racist, folks. But they're all treated as skull servants while on the field in the graveyard. So, when we do get the sweet, sweet Mokey Mokey support, you already know I'm going to play this deck just for the SNG. Now, practically, until we get more support, these are the only 2 cards you can rota. But, since Mokey Mokey has a rota, it's good to see. And since this guy originated all the way back in Caveman Yu-Gi-Oh! In the Ancient Sanctuary set, but got reprinted in the Speed Duel GX set, players have the chance to get this bad boy. Now, to answer the big elephant in the room. Just how exactly will a Mokey Mokey deck work based on the original and the Stray? Well, as you know, the Stray is only going to rota 2 cards in the deck so far, until more support is released. Now, I'm not Belowski from the GX Duelists, but I did run the Mokey Mokey engine in my old school fairy deck, so I'll give you a nice little course on how you can run this deck. So, to answer the question, the Mokey Mokey deck is a going second OTK deck. Well, how is it supposed to OTK when you have a vanilla monster at 300 attack, Hellgear? Quit capping. If you don't want to go the Mokey Mokey OTK route, you can check out the most recent duelist who put up a current day Mokey Mokey deck, and that's Twig. I'll be sure to link to that deck profile in the description below of this video. Anyway, back to the subject at hand and feeding the elephant its grass. The Mokey Mokey OTK deck is very, very fragile. Even more fragile than a competitive Exodia deck. And while the Mokey Mokey OTK is something that you really need the grace of the gods to wield out, it is doable. But doing it on turn 2 when you go second is one of the biggest stretches around. So, when I did it in my old school fairy deck, and there's no greater shame than giving your opponent the Mokey Mokey OTK, I did it like this. The biggest thing that you need to worry about with Mokey Mokey is how to special summon them, period. So, back in the days, what I would do is I'd use Foolish Burial. You play Foolish Burial, you send your Mokey Mokey to the graveyard. Bam. Now that that's in the graveyard, I had to figure out how to special summon it. And this is why going second is the most important part. Now, of course, back in those days, Monster Reborn was banned, so we played Premature Burial, 800 life points well spent, to get the Mokey Mokey out of the graveyard. Now, because it was special summoned, and clearly its attack meets the requirements, Infernal Reckless Summon kicks in. So, your Infernal Reckless Summon kicks in, you got this, and you special summon the other two. Now, you've got 3 Mokey Mokeys on deck. You've got the Infernal Reckless Summon doing its job. It's good. Now, we play Mokey Mokey Smackdown. We have this active. So, the biggest problem with boomer duelists in the GX era was triggering Mokey Mokey Smackdown, because they would all do it the wrong way. Simply put, if a fairy monster on your field is destroyed while you control a Mokey Mokey, all Mokey Mokeys attack become 3,000 for the turn. Many duelists would take one of these Mokey Mokeys, crash it into the opponent to trigger the Smackdown. The big problem with that is you have only 2 Mokey Mokeys at 3,000 to work with. That was the main way duelists were doing it wrong. What you're supposed to do, and I figured this out, was you go like this. You need to special summon your 3 Mokey Mokeys, so future support for this archetype should include swarming. Hopefully Konami is watching this, they understand. Now, the best way to do it, after you've special summoned your 3 Mokey Mokeys, is you normal summon Zeradius, Herald of Heaven. Zeradius, Herald of Heaven is one of those old school monsters that you would discard for a field spell. In Zeradius' case, it's the Sanctuary in the Sky. You normal summon Zeradius, Herald of Heaven. Now, because the Sanctuary in the Sky is not on your field or in play, Zeradius' effect destroys itself. This destroying sacrifice on normal summon triggers Mokey Mokey Smackdown. Now, you've got your boys mad at the world, and that's truly dreadful. Of course, when I did this, my opponents were like, who cares? You have to go through something as beefy as a Blue Eyes. And that's when I dropped the Boom. Another card from Ancient Sanctuary known as Delta Attacker. Delta Attacker lets 3 normal monsters with the same name attack your opponent directly this turn. So it didn't really matter what monsters my opponents had. Once I played Delta Attacker after my Mokey Mokey trio, was beefed up by SmackDown, they were getting punched in the face for 9,000 damage, thus the OTK. In today's Yu-Gi-Oh!, this Mokey Mokey OTK is even more fragile, with cards such as Ash Blossom running around in the meta game, Ghost Ogre to blast Mokey Mokey SmackDown is another terrible threat, especially if you can manage to Droll and Lockbird this deck. If at any time this gets disrupted, like in the old school days, they hit this with either Solemn Judgment or they use like Magic Jammer, or if they just blocked the direct attack of your 3 Mokey Mokeys, you were literally picking up your cards and you were walking away from the table. So, what is my hope for future Mokey Mokey support? 1, the Mokey Mokey support of the future, and Konami, pay attention. Future Mokey Mokey support with the Stray being a Rhoda is a great start. All archetypes need at least 1 Rhoda. So kudos for the Stray Rhoda being not once per turn. So you can get to it faster. And because your Stray Mokey Mokey also counts as Mokey Mokey, you can even normal summon it and crash it into your opponents to beef up the 3 vanillas for SmackDown, taking the damage like Belowski would. 2, the Mokey Mokey deck has to have swarming capabilities. This is a must if you want to incorporate the whole point of the Mokey Mokeys, beefing them up so they can slam into your opponent directly and deal 9 racks of damage. 3, have some better support cards. Cards that can make it easier to gain access to Mokey Mokey. You know, give them a card that can Stratos Mokey Mokey from the deck. Give them a counter trap that can negate. Give them forms of disruption. If you were to Google search Mokey Mokey, you can see so many variations of cards that the community has made. Like this one who did a Link 3 for Mokey Mokey. Looks really cool. And when we get more support on this, whether it comes later in Power of the Duelist or somewhere down the line, when this deck decides to become a fun and available casual deck, I will be here to play it. I'll be here to give you the deck profile, and I'm going to have a good time rocking this at my locals. So, Konami, make the Mokey Mokey archetype badass like you did White. Don't screw them over. And at least give them a counter trap to help negate or disrupt the opponent. That's my take on Mokey Mokey in a nutshell. Again, I will be sure to leave a link in the description below to Kira Twig's Mokey Mokey deck. Leave your thoughts on Mokey Mokey support, or at least what you were hoping the Mokey Mokey support would look like, and what you think the Mokey Mokey deck needs in the comments section below. Like, sub, and bell, but for now, I take my cards to the box because I'm done. Bye-bye, everybody.